This is a full story. Kitten wishes you all a happy and enjoyable story. 1,000 days with my girlfriend. On the 1,000th day with my girlfriend, I bought a cake and a wedding ring to prepare for a proposal. On the way to pick her up from work, I saw her hugging her childhood friend. I silently put away the diamond ring. Later, she was on her knees with swollen eyes, begging me to come back. I smiled and took out an invitation. I'm getting married next month. Remember to bring a gift. Today is the 1,000th day anniversary with Haley. I touched the box in my pocket that I had warmed up and sent her a message. Haley, guess what special day it is today? After a long while, she replied, I don't know. I guess she must be busy at work today. So I sent a kiss emoji and followed up with, I'll tell you when you get off work. As usual, she never replies to such messages. But after knowing her for 3 years, I had grown accustomed to it. I took an hour off work early and waited downstairs at my girlfriend's office. Winter in Toronto felt like it had been enchanted. Even though there was no snow in sight, the cold still made people shiver. A little girl dressed in thin clothing was selling a few scattered bouquets of roses along the street. Since I was picking up my girlfriend and hadn't had the chance to buy flowers yet, I decided to buy all the flowers from the little girl. Thank you, Uncle. I wish you and your girlfriend a long-lasting relationship. Long-lasting? I also hope for a long-lasting relationship. Even though I only bought a few bouquets of roses as usual, the little girl's touched look and sweet voice warmed my heart. As the time for my girlfriend to get off work approached, many people started coming out of the office building. At that moment, I saw my girlfriend Haley. She was looking around at the entrance, seemingly searching for someone. I was delighted. How did she know I was here to pick her up? But then I saw her running toward another man, the man I had seen before. When we first got together, Haley's phone wallpaper had always been this man. At first, I thought he was some niche celebrity. Later, I learned that he was her childhood friend Tony, who had gone abroad after finishing his college entrance exams. What are we having for dinner tonight? The man draped his coat over Haley, and she accepted it naturally. I booked a restaurant, but you can keep these flowers. I can't take them with me. She happily accepted the large bouquet of roses from the man, and they walked hand in hand to a taxi. The box in my hand pressed painfully against my palm, and my heart ached along with it. For years ago, I confessed my feelings to her for the first time. When we were chatting the most intensely, I sent her a long confession, but after half a month, she didn't reply at all. At that time, I thought she disliked me talking too much, so after that, I dared not disturb her easily, only helping her when she needed it. My dorm mates laughed at me, calling me a simp. They said, Rocky, don't try to get something you can't have. Haley is the school beauty. She would never look at someone like you. No matter how good you are to her, she won't choose you. At that time, I couldn't answer back and could only give a perfunctory smile. Actually, I knew in my heart that I was not worthy of her. After the first failed confession, I no longer expected to be with her. But every time I saw her, I still couldn't help feeling inexplicably happy. So as long as she needed me, I was content. In fact, not all simps end up with nothing. One afternoon after class, Haley suddenly sent me a message. Want to go drinking? With the spirit of being available at any time, I immediately went with her without a second thought. During the process, I noticed she was in a bad mood, drinking quietly without chatting with me. Worried that something might happen, I stayed with her, thinking I needed to get her back before the dormitory closed. But she seemed possessed, drinking continuously. In the end, unable to do anything else, I booked 2 adjacent rooms at a nearby hotel. After cleaning up the mess she had vomited, just as I was about to go to the other room to sleep, she grabbed me. Her face was flushed red from drinking, like a blooming red rose. Rocky, do you want to be with me? Hearing these words, I was stunned. The goddess I had secretly loved for so long suddenly confessed. It was more exciting than hitting the jackpot. Of course, I agreed without hesitation. I remember that night. I couldn't sleep at all. Looking back now, I realize how young I was back then. At 10 in the evening, I sat on the sofa switching TV channels aimlessly. At this moment, I heard the sound of a key unlocking the door, and Haley came home, looking worn out. So cold, so cold. It's really cold today. She hung up her coat and walked into the house, noticing the table full of food with some confusion. You haven't eaten yet? Yes, she always calls me you or by my full name. At first, I thought she was not used to affectionate terms, so I got used to it. Until today, when I heard her affectionately call that man Tony, I realized it wasn't that she wasn't used to calling me something affectionate, but that I was simply not someone important to her. Perhaps seeing that I hadn't replied for a while, Haley poked me. Hey, I'm talking to you. Are you zoned out? I awkwardly looked up at her. I wanted to tell her that I had seen her downstairs at the office, but a voice inside me told me not to say it. Once I said it, the relationship I had worked so hard to maintain for 3 years would collapse and cease to exist at the moment I questioned her. I suppressed my emotions and forced myself to appear indifferent. No, I was just thinking about something. By the way, have you had dinner? Hearing this, her gaze shifted and she awkwardly replied, "Oh, I had to work late at the company today, so I ordered takeout." Then she noticed my red eyes and seemed surprised. Did you just cry?" Only then did I realize that my face was covered in tears. I wiped them away randomly and forced a smile. "Oh, it's nothing. Just got teary-eyed while chopping onions." Haley walked to the dining table, saw the cake and the roses in the vase, and suddenly remembered something. "Oh, you asked me what special day it is today. Is it someone's birthday?" Thinking about today's events, I turned my gaze to the TV and answered lightly, "It's no special occasion. It's just Friday, and the supermarket downstairs has a discount." In the days following that, Haley always came home late. Each time, the excuse was the busy end-of-year project and overtime at the company. Today was no different, but I had dealt with their company's projects before. All their projects are usually completed several months before the new year, so why would there be sudden overtime at the end of the year? But I wouldn't wait for her to come home to start my evening routine like before. This time, I lay down in bed early. When she came home, she saw the house was completely dark, called out to me a few times without getting a response, put her phone on the bedside table, and went to wash up. Haley's phone screen lit up. This time, I picked up the phone almost instinctively. The password was one I had seen her enter before, neither my birthday nor hers. After unlocking it, the top contact was labeled with a pink heart, and the message read, "Haley, are you going to sleep?" There was no need to guess. This was Haley's childhood friend. At that moment, my heart ached, and it was hard to breathe. For 3 years of our relationship, her contact name for me had always been my full name. At one point, I even secretly changed it to Baby. But she was very angry and made me change it back to my full name. She said, "Rocky, if you mess with my phone again, we'll break up." I remember that was the first time she had been so angry with me. I had to apologize for several days before she forgave me. So since then, I had never looked at her phone again. As the messages continued to come in, I was about to open them when I heard the sound of the bathroom light being turned off. So I had no choice but to put the phone back. Haley came to the bedside, picked up her phone, and paused for a moment. I heard typing sounds and occasional laughter. When I turned over, she cautiously put down her phone. Feeling the mattress sinking beside me, Haley hugged me as usual. The warm, soft temperature sent a shiver down my back. I looked at her face, so familiar, yet so unfamiliar, as if I had never truly seen her. After almost 3 years of being together, all the joys, sorrows, and everything we went through gathered into a lump in my chest. The suppressed emotions burst forth at this moment. Good friends? Do good friends kiss in public? Do they say good night every day? If it's nothing, then why are you hiding your meetings with him from me? I cried out word by word, tears falling uncontrollably. Yes, why? Why did she have to treat me this way? At a crucial moment of her career, her father fell at home and broke his leg. I took a month off to rush to the hospital to take care of him. Everyone says she's lucky to have a good boyfriend, but she doesn't seem to care. For 3 years, I have been sincere and accommodating. Even a block of ice should have warmed up by now. Seeing my tearful accusation, Haley's face turned cold. "Did you just look at my phone? If I hadn't looked, I would have been kept in the dark for a lifetime." If Haley's childhood friend hadn't returned to the country this time, I think I would never have known that her relationship with him was even closer than with her boyfriend. "Rocky, don't make a fuss, okay?" Her tone was slightly irritated, her eyes full of impatience. "I didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd be upset. And now, with how open things are abroad, it's normal for Tony to greet people with a kiss after coming back to the country. Don't overthink it, okay?" After she finished speaking, the room fell into silence, so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. After a while, Haley might have felt she was in the wrong, so she softened her tone. "Okay, it's my fault." She wiped the tears from my eyes and continued, "But I swear, there's nothing between us. I was just too excited to see an old friend after so long, and he will go back to the country in a few days. From today, I will definitely keep my distance from him, okay?" Seeing that I wasn't convinced, she showed me the chat history with her childhood friend on her phone. I glanced through it. It didn't seem like they talked about anything too outrageous, but the pink heart emoji still made me feel uncomfortable. "Then what's with the nickname you gave him? And the lock screen password, it's his, right?" She sighed. "The nickname is because it's always been that way since childhood. The password is my mother's birthday. If you don't like it, I can change it, okay?" I looked at her, her eyes full of warmth. just like when we first got together. Back then, I didn't know Tony. She would thoughtfully bring me breakfast and make bento boxes. Since knowing Haley, we had never had a fight. Back then, her eyes were full of love for me too. When I heard her patiently explaining these things, the anger I had been holding onto in my chest dissipated by more than half. I thought maybe I should give her another chance. She hugged me and said, "Silly, all the good things you've done for me over the years, I remember them in my heart." Her unique body scent mixed with the fragrance of shampoo filled the entire room. On Friday, Haley sent me a message. "Rocky, my dad invited us to dinner today. Since I took care of her father after his discharge, Haley and I would go to her dad's house for dinner every month. Today was no different. Just as I arrived downstairs at her dad's house, I happened to run into her coming back from work. She saw me and waved. 'Rocky, why are you here so early?' I smiled and went to meet her. 'Our company is closer to your dad's place. Let's go up.' After saying that, I was about to hold her hand when I saw a look of hesitation on her face. Wait a bit longer for Tony. He hasn't arrived yet." I was momentarily stunned, not sure how I felt. At that moment, a man dressed like a Korean drama male lead patted Haley on the head. "Why are you waiting downstairs? Isn't it cold?" Haley wasn't upset by this. She said, "I just didn't want you to get lost. I was going to come down to get you later." "Are you silly? I've been to your house so many times since I was a child." After their conversation, Tony seemed to have just noticed me. He looked at Haley and asked, "Haley, who is this?" Haley only then realized I was still there and awkwardly introduced me. "Tony, this is my boyfriend Rocky, and this is my good friend Tony." After that, they went back into their little world. I felt like an outsider, unable to join their conversation. "Hey, you little rascal, why bring gifts when you come? Are these for me?" Haley pointed at the 99 roses he was holding, looking very happy. "You silly girl, what are you thinking? These are for Haley's father. Don't get any ideas." A sense of suffocation returned, as if everything Haley said to me that night had become meaningless. I walked behind them, watching their playful backs, feeling that they really were a perfect match. At that moment, something inside me seemed to begin to loosen. At the dinner table, Haley's father sat down and poured me a glass of wine, his tone kind. "Rocky, you've been dating Haley for almost 3 years now. When are you planning to get married?" "Uncle." I took the wine glass and was about to speak when Haley interrupted. "Oh, Dad, we're eating. Why talk about this now? Besides, Rocky and I just graduated. Marriage is still far off." After she finished speaking, she gave Tony a knowing look and he jokingly replied, "Yes, Uncle. Are you really willing to let Haley get married so early?" Watching them exchange playful remarks, I felt dizzy and disoriented under the flickering light. I had known Haley for 3 years, introduced her to all my friends, and promised that I would invite them to our wedding. I always thought I would marry Haley, have children, and grow old together. It turns out it was all just my wishful thinking. Haley never considered marrying me. Haley's father didn't respond to their comments and continued speaking to me. "Rocky, I can see that you truly care for Haley. She may not understand now, but after marriage, please be patient with her." Then he turned to Haley and scolded, "And you too, you're grown adults. Stop acting like children, playing around. By the way, Tony, did you meet any girls while you were abroad? If you have time, come back and show them to Haley's uncle." After he finished, Haley and Tony fell silent. After leaving Haley's father's house, it was completely dark. When we got home, as expected, Haley immediately turned cold. "Rocky, what do you mean?" I guess she was referring to her dad talking about marriage at the dinner table. "I didn't say anything. If it weren't for you, my dad wouldn't have suddenly mentioned Tony finding a girlfriend," she said with such a strong tone. For a moment, I couldn't tell if she was serious or joking. Because of this, she gave me a cold shoulder. I looked at her calmly, with a cold tone. "So, you never planned to marry me?" Haley's attitude towards marriage at the dinner table left me completely heartbroken. Perhaps it was the first time she saw me so indifferent. She suddenly panicked and quickly grabbed my hand. "How could that be? I just... At that moment, Haley's phone rang. She looked at the number and saw it was Tony calling. She immediately answered. I watched her face tense up, her expression growing worse. After hanging up, she grabbed her coat and prepared to leave. I stopped her. "If you walk out that door today, we're breaking up." I remembered how she once said, "No matter what happens, I will always be with you." But now her childhood friend was back, and everything had changed. I can still recall how cold Toronto was that day. "Can't you stop making a scene? Tony had a car accident and is in the hospital. Can't we talk about it when I get back?" Haley impatiently pushed me away and ran to the door. With a loud bang, She slammed the door, isolating me and cutting off all warmth between us. Haley didn't come home that night. Indeed, being a devoted lover is not the same as being a childhood friend. I remember the first time I met her. She was surrounded by a group of troublemakers in an alley. Seeing her in trouble, I immediately called the police and fought with those troublemakers, ending up with multiple rib fractures and being rushed to the emergency room unconscious for half a month. She expressed her gratitude, but only glanced at me a few times. Yet when her childhood friend had an accident and was in the hospital, she could spend the whole night by his side. It's truly laughable. Everyone says that sincerity begets sincerity, but maybe Haley doesn't have a heart, which is why she can't see my dedication to her. To say I'm not hurt would be a lie. It's like raising a puppy for 3 years, only to discover that the puppy already had an owner. No matter how painful, I have to let go. I decided to move out of this small home. I still remember when I first rented this place. She jumped up happily and hugged me, saying, "Rocky, this will be our home. We must have our own house once we're married." I nodded, looking at her with affection. Sure. At that time, I truly believed she wanted to spend her life with me. Now, I have saved enough for the down payment. All that's left is for her to agree to my proposal, and we could immediately choose a house just for us. Unfortunately, just a little bit more, just a tiny bit more. I took out the diamond ring I had already bought and tossed it into the trash. It was meant for her, with her name engraved inside the band. It's no longer needed. As for the memories of the past 3 years, let her bear them alone. I sent her a text saying, "Let's break up," and then I completely left this home full of memories. On the way to move, I ran into Jack, my college dorm mate, and we grabbed a late-night snack. "Rocky, when are you planning to get married? Remember when you won over our college beauty? We were all so envious." I was stunned. Jack hasn't changed at all, always bringing up the things best left unsaid. I ate my barbecue with a calm expression. I broke up with Haley. Jack was taken aback. "No way. I saw your post on social media just a few days ago." Jack then seemed to realize something. "Did Haley break up with you?" I tossed a napkin at him. "What are you talking about? Do you think I'm that pathetic?" I glanced at my phone. The message was still from yesterday, when I told Haley we were breaking up. I suppose this counts as me initiating the breakup. "Actually, I could tell back in college that you and Haley weren't a good match. Remember how you stayed up all night to take care of her dad, see? Oming to meals with panda eyes? Even we couldn't stand to see it. But look at the result. When her own dad was hospitalized, she ignored you and rushed to take care of Tony for the whole night. Now she's not worried about work anymore." Ignoring my discomfort, Jack continued, "See, here it is." He handed me his phone. It was a close-up photo of Haley and Tony at the hospital, with Tony's left hand in a cast leaning on Haley's shoulder. The caption read, "After all, it's still you." Maybe I had already suspected their relationship, but seeing them so affectionate on the phone brought me a sense of calm, even a hint of amusement. I laughed at my own foolishness, laughed at how I wasted 3 years of my youth. Most of all, I was relieved to see Haley's true colors. I handed the phone back expressionlessly. It doesn't matter. Her affairs are no longer my concern, and blocked all her contact information. I had let go of everything she did because she wasn't worth my sadness. I quit my job and decided to use the money meant for the new house's down payment to go abroad for further studies. In fact, I had planned to study abroad before meeting Haley. But after we got together, I shared my plans with her. That day, she held me tightly, tears in her eyes, looking utterly helpless. She said, "Rocky, can you stay with me and not go abroad?" I admit, at that moment I felt soft-hearted, so I gave up on studying abroad and chose to stay and be with her. But Haley went back on her word, choosing her childhood friend over me. Now, I am alone, free of attachments, and ready to pursue the dreams I had left unfinished. While preparing for my studies abroad, I received a friend request message. "Rocky, where have you gone?" It was from Haley. I knew without having to think. I checked the date. It had been a week since I sent her the breakup message. This was her first contact with me. I ignored the message. Then a series of unknown calls came in. After thinking for a moment, I answered, "Rocky, when did you move out?" The familiar cold voice in my ear was Haley. I sneered. It took her a week to realize I had moved out. It seemed Tony's accident had left him quite injured. We've broken up. I hope Miss Haley doesn't disturb my life anymore. "Haley, your boyfriend seems to be upset. I'm doing better here. You should go find him," said Tony's voice on the phone. "Ah, so they're still together." Haley was silent for a moment, her tone gentle. "It's okay, Tony. Rocky is just like this. He'll be fine in a few days. You should just rest at home." So she's even taking care of her childhood friend at home. After calming Tony, Haley turned to me and said, "You know, Tony is all alone in the country, and no one is there to take care of him after his accident. You're breaking up with me over something so minor? Rocky, can't you be less selfish?" I hung up the phone. I really don't want to say another word to her. If she thinks I'm selfish, then let me be selfish. However, in the following days, Haley kept sending me messages and calling me. I was overwhelmed by it. Her actions severely affected my life. I decided to change my phone number, but to my surprise, she somehow got my new address and showed up at my door. "Rocky, how long are you going to avoid me?" Just as I was about to leave, Haley blocked me at the door. Her eyes were dark with exhaustion, looking like she hadn't rested in a long time. "Rocky, please stop making a scene. I've missed you so much these past few days. I won't believe such words anymore." I pushed her away and said coldly, "Haley, haven't I made it clear? We've broken up." Her expression faltered, as if she had been struck, and tears began to flow. Her eyes were red and swollen. She looked extremely aggrieved, like a delicate flower from a novel. "Rocky, please don't be so stubborn. Don't you remember what we agreed on before? To save up for a house and have a home of our own? Have you forgotten all that? And you said we'd get married after graduation. Are you going back on your word?" Haley's expression was frantic as she said this. She knew in her heart that this time, I had truly chosen to let go. But it was too late. Recalling what she said at the dinner table that day, I responded coldly. But I remember clearly that day at the dinner table. It was Miss Haley who said she wasn't planning to get married for now. By the way, didn't Miss Haley post on social media a few days ago? "You and him are so destined, turning around and ending up together." And didn't Miss Haley bring her childhood friend back home? Why aren't you taking care of him and instead found time to come here? After saying this, I could see Haley's face turn pale, as if she had lost her soul. Seeing her stand still, I simply walked past her and went out the door. When I returned home, after completing all the paperwork for studying abroad, I found the lock on the door had been forced open. I quickly pushed the door open. Inside, the table was filled with a variety of dishes. Haley was sitting on the sofa, staring blankly at the TV. When she heard the door open, she snapped out of it. She rushed forward, wearing an apron and looking excited. "Rocky, you're finally back. I just cooked all this. It's still warm. Come on, eat." After moving in with Haley, she hadn't cooked at all. She must have put a lot of effort into preparing all this food. But I had no appetite. Just seeing Haley standing in front of me made me feel like a fool. Seeing that I didn't move, Haley carefully tugged at my sleeve. "Rocky, please don't stay angry." "Haley, don't make me say it again. Pack up your things and leave my room before I call the police." Haley looked like a frightened little rabbit. Her carefully composed expression collapsed in an instant, but I couldn't feel any sympathy, only disgust. She immediately hugged me tightly, desperately pleading, "Rocky, please don't leave me. These past few days, I've been sleeping alone, eating alone, and I've been thinking about so many of our past moments. I've realized I can't live without you. I'm really lonely. I miss you so much. Rocky, can't you please not force me away?" The woman I once adored as a goddess was now begging me to come back. It was all so ironic. I had given her chances before, but she didn't cherish them and trampled on my true feelings. Now, at the happiest moment of my life, she comes to crush it. It's so disgusting, truly disgusting. I forcefully pushed her away, speaking in a cold tone. "Haley, it's impossible for us." Haley tried to say more. Suddenly, she noticed the documents in my hand, and her expression froze. "You're going abroad?" Seeing Haley's pained look, I almost wanted to laugh. If she's pretending to care now, she should have done it much earlier. "Yes, I'm going abroad." The moment I said this, I felt a sense of relief I had never experienced before. I realized that I had truly let go of this relationship with Haley. Haley's eyelashes fluttered, and her expression was full of pain. "Please, Rocky, don't leave me. I'll really die without you. I swear, Tony and I have nothing. He's gone back to his country. I promise nothing like this will ever happen again." She knelt down and swore, crying like a rain of pear blossoms. "And about the social media post, it was because you were breaking up with me. I did it to make you jealous. I never wanted to break up with you, really. Rocky, don't you want me anymore?" I didn't want to have any more entanglement with her. I spoke to her in a calm tone. "You know, Haley, I'm someone who never changes my mind once I've made a decision. That day, when you ran into Tony's arms while I was preparing to propose to you, our relationship was already on a downhill slope. It's you who didn't keep the promises we made. So, Haley, I don't want our breakup to be too ugly." After that day, Haley really didn't contact me again. Occasionally, I would hear news about her from college classmates. For instance, her father was hospitalized again, and this time she quit her job to take care of him. Then there was Tony, her childhood friend. Because his ex-girlfriend was pregnant, he finally decided to return abroad and marry her. The last I heard of her was that her father had passed away. After that, my classmates and I tacitly agreed not to discuss Haley in front of me. Actually, this is quite good. I don't want to hear about her anymore, because abroad, I met the love of my life. Serena. She's in the same batch of students studying abroad. Her personality is very gentle, and she is very considerate towards me. When we're together, she affectionately calls me baby and puts pink little hearts next to my name on chat apps. She doesn't get angry when I look at her phone. More importantly, she never takes my care for granted. She says even boys deserve gifts on special days. I also discovered that we went to the same high school. She secretly had a crush on me back then when she saw me playing basketball on the field. I didn't expect to meet her again during this study abroad program, and I certainly didn't expect us to end up together. According to her best friend, the day we got together, Serena was so excited she couldn't sleep all night. She even posted several times on social media, showing off our relationship. Time flew by quickly during the study abroad period, and soon I was about to start working. At graduation, I received an offer from a major company abroad. At the same time, my major life event was about to be organized. Yes, after settling down abroad, I proposed to Serena. I filled the room with rose petals and candles. When Serena entered the room, she was surprised and soon had tears of excitement in her eyes. She said, "You know, Rocky, I've been waiting for this day for a long time. I love you too." That day it was snowing outside. Just as cold as the day, I was preparing to propose to Haley. But the only difference was that Serena's reaction made me feel that everything I had done was worth it. Unfortunately, just before my wedding with Serena, while I was setting up the wedding venue, Haley showed up at the hotel lobby. She looked much thinner than before, with a hint of sadness and age. When she saw me, she walked over. "Rocky, long time no see." Thinking that guests should be welcomed, I also greeted her. "Long time no see." After saying this, there was a moment of silence between us. Haley spoke first. "I found out you were here from a post by your dorm leader. How have you been these years?" Haley's eyes were slightly red and her voice trembled a bit. I noticed Haley's somewhat rough hands and guessed that her past few years might not have been very good. But so what? Her matters were no longer my concern. I skipped her question and smiled slightly. "If Miss Haley came to bless my wedding, you are very welcome." I calmly took out a wedding invitation. "This is my invitation. If Miss Haley comes, don't forget to bring a gift." Haley stood there, not immediately taking the invitation. I sneered, tossing the invitation on the table. "There are still many things to arrange for the wedding. If Miss Haley has nothing else, I will take my leave." Just as I turned to leave, Haley grabbed me, looking somewhat distraught. "Rocky, can we go back to the way we were? This is the ring you were going to use for the proposal." Haley shakily took out a diamond ring from her bag and handed it to me. "Can you choose me again?" Haley looked at me helplessly, her expression full of despair. "Rocky, I have nothing now. I only have you. Please don't abandon me." I looked at the engraving inside the ring, CS, which was indeed the one from back then. But what does it represent now? I had long since discarded that ring. It's laughable to think that using a discarded ring could make me change my mind. I turned to her with a relaxed tone. "Haley, this ring is something I have long discarded. I have someone now who I need to cherish, and I love my current wife very much because she deserves it." After saying this, I prepared to leave, ignoring Haley's expression. Just then, Serena ran over from another area. She waved to me. "Hey, honey, I'm here." I bypassed Haley and walked quickly towards Serena. She threw herself into my arms, with her sweet scent flooding my senses. "I missed you so much while you were away," Serena said, cuddling against me like a little kitten. I gently rubbed Serena's soft hair and said tenderly, "I missed you too, baby." After saying that, Serena glanced at Haley and looked up at me. "Honey, who was that just now?" I replied, "Just an acquaintance." At the wedding, Serena walked down the lawn with a bouquet, approaching me with deep affection. In her wedding dress, she looked even more beautiful than I had imagined, like a princess from a fairy tale. I could hear the surrounding well wishes, with everyone saying Serena and I were a perfect match. During the ring exchange, I saw Haley in a corner of the audience. She was watching this happy scene with tears in her eyes. I don't know if she regrets it. I only know that I am very happy now. The end. If you liked Haley's story, please like and subscribe to Kitten's channel, updated every morning at 9 a.m.